All right, good morning. So today we have a couple of new Tamiya kits to go over a little bit. Don't really see much on these online, but thought I would give a quick look through them. I've been after both of these for a while. Finally happened to find one seller who happened to have both on eBay. Grabbed them right off the auctions, and they just got here. Now we're getting around to making a video of these. So yeah, haven't seen many unboxings of these on YouTube, but I figure it's a couple of cool kits. You don't really see these from most manufacturers anymore. Even Tamiya, the last time I think one was reissued was back in 2005, 2008, so they're not really easy to come by. But we have the Vosper fast patrol boat, and we have the PT-15. So this is the original boxing that came out in, I believe, 1971. So yes, quite a bit older than me. And this is actually the later release of the PT-15, which came out in, I believe, 2005. So slightly newer box, same box art, same parts, but we will start with this and go over that. And before we keep going on this also came the other day. This is something that you really don't see very often. It's the Sanka Mark B. It's a sci-fi Shinden-esque fighter from a Japanese anime that produced by Fine Molds. This is also really hard to come by, so just goes to show if you want something, keep your eyes on eBay. But yeah, we will start with this. So upon opening the box, you are presented with quite an interesting array of parts. So we have the instruction sheet, which we will briefly flip through in a few minutes. And here's all the parts. This kit was, I believe, designed to be motorized. So you get a little motor in here. Now, if this is from 1971, I don't know if this is going to work, but it's Japanese, so it probably will. And then we have the hull, some electronics bits in here that we'll go over. Here's a bag of parts, some chrome propellers there. There's another bag of parts, and they're actually labeled individually with the kit name. And there's some decals in there, which I assume are probably not okay if they're from 1971. Another bag of, these are torpedoes. Some detail parts, the railings, various bracing. This is I'm not entirely sure what this is. This is part of the stand, I believe. It looks like the stand, yep. This is an interesting piece. This is a one-piece molded superstructure. I think that's what it's called on a boat. But yeah, it's packaged in this nice little vac form polystyrene box stapled to a cardboard thing. I assume this is some form of slide molding. So Tamiya was doing slide molding back in 1971. So whoever, you guys online who are like, oh my god, whoever so-and-so invented it, Tamiya was doing it before you. Anyway, the box back there. This is the hull. I don't know if this originally came in a bag or a box or something, but it is loose in this one. This is the top hull molded in green. So a little flashback to the Revell PT-109 there. And the bottom hull, interestingly enough, is molded in red and gray. So for all those out there who want to save yourself some paint work, there's that. So all you guys who are singing Bandai's praises for molding multiple colors on one sprue, Tamiya molded it on one part. So that's interesting. What else is in here? There is a metal shaft, which is coming out of its bag. Not really sure what that's for, probably a prop shaft. This, some kind of rigging wire, or string. There's a bag of various wires, connectors. There's some lube in there too, and something else that's leaking, so we'll figure that out later. And what else is in here? A little Tamiya leaflet from 1971, maybe? And a pair of tweezers. Now, yeah, Just saying, more kits should come with tweezers. But cool. So let's we could take a closer look at the, I guess, the details on this. I'm not going to take them out of the bags because I'm not ready to build this yet. But we'll start with the, I guess, the deck. See, quite nice molded detail. No flash, no mold imperfections whatsoever. Various holes pre-drilled for all manner of detail parts to go onto the deck. Now, if you look at that, I don't know if the light will catch it, but very sharp molded hatch detail, all little stiffeners, all little bracing, all little deck miscellaneous items. All look very nice. Yeah, so those go together. We won't get this out either because I don't really want to have to deal with accidentally breaking it or losing something, but very, very nice raised window detail, raised riveting detail, window frames, and this, I believe this other piece inside here is the rear deck section, the one that goes like that thing right there. But very nicely packaged, very nicely molded, I guess like a grate detail in there on the floor, more raised rivet detail, very, very nice. So yeah, Tamiya in 1971, knew what they were doing. This, we won't get it out. I don't have any way to test it, but when I do build this, I'll report back on whether or not it actually works. But given the fact that it's from 1971, you know, who knows what'll happen. Maybe it'll blow up. This is the stand, I believe. Multiple pieces. There's a piece loose in there. I believe that's something that holds the hull together. Yeah, not much to go over with that. No visible ejector pin marks all over the place. Just standard display stand. Put that back in there. This is the sprue with the torpedoes on it, I believe. And straight off, generally very sharp detail. I don't know if you can make out some of the great detail on that. There's some wheels. Torpedoes themselves are in halves, so we'll be dealing with some seams on those, but molded railings, various bracing, some of the deck railing pins or standoffs, I don't know what they're called, but that's what that thread that you saw earlier will thread into. This is some more upper deck surface detail, panels and such. That's I believe, a control panel of some sort. We've got very, very sharply molded detail on it. There's another hatch, some crew figures, which look sort of meh, but not terrible. Here's some more molded deck details. Very nice grate detail on that. Some doors, some hatches. The various details on the little latches there. Yeah, overall, very, very nice. And these, I believe, are lifeboat canisters. Nice raised ribbing detail. What else is back here? This is, I don't know what those are. This is the back of a Sprue, so I have no idea. But overall, looks very nice, even from 1971. And also nicely packaged in its little bag. There's some loose parts in there that we won't get out, but you get the point. Here is the rest of the colored parts. This is the, I believe, the rear section that goes under the waterline, under where those 3 holes are. I assume those are exhausts, maybe. Props, I have to admit the chrome on these is really nice, but the sprue attachment point is right on one of the blades, and I don't really see myself being able to clean that up. So we'll probably de-chrome those and spray them a nice brass color. Clear parts are in there as well. I won't get those out, but you'll have to take my word on it. Looking through the bag, they look very nice. Some more red detail parts. I believe some of these are the exhaust covers or tubes. No issues really to report there. Very cleanly molded parts. No flash whatsoever. So all you guys out there who are producing kits with flash in 2019, 2020, Tamiya got it right in 1971. So yeah, if you do need to step up your game, now's the time to do it. So that's all the parts. Yeah, looks very nice, very cleanly molded, no flash whatsoever to report. All the raised details are sharp raised rivets. Parts are individually, or not really individually bagged, but kind of split up and bagged separately, so any loose parts are not running around the box. So very nice. Next, we'll come back and kind of flip through the instructions a little bit. All right, so this is the instruction manual that comes with the Vosper kit. Somewhat different than what you're used to with Tamiya instructions. You get a nice picture of the finished model, a little picture of the crew family that you got there, and kind of a blueprint drawing of the actual version of this patrol boat. And upon opening, you get some information, some photos of the actual craft in action, some more drawings, a bit of a prototype there, and then you're into the build. So looking at this, obviously you get some information on the left side here on what goes where and what's what, and some building tips and tricks and such. In here is I guess you start with the Bofors machine gun. I think that's right. Is that a Bofors? Yeah, yes it is. So here's an actual photo of the part when you're done with it. So some of these little detail parts that you may be questioning what goes where or what orientation is. Tamiya has glue surfaces and all that kind of laid out for you as well, and also a picture of the finished item to give you a better idea of what it's supposed to look like. Same over here with the double 20mm machine gun. Very clear instructions on where stuff goes. Information on glue surfaces. Some of this stuff is meant to be left loose so you can kind of play around with it, turn around. This is the radar, maybe? Yeah, radar. The Wheelhouse, as we saw in the kit itself, the parts are very cleanly molded. You get some nice effect on that with some paint, some detailing, if you wish. This is the Wheelhouse. Oh, that's what it's called. It's not the superstructure, it's a Wheelhouse. So more helpful build hints on like a cross-section of where the seat goes, pictures of the finished item, a picture of the actual item. This should help with positioning of some of the switches, and if you have any questions on orientations and such, that should help you out a lot. So props to Tamiya for giving you all that information. Here is some more information on that rear structure part that goes on the hull. Again, another photo of what it looks like when it's done, a photo of the real thing, all manner of detail parts, various masts and lifeboat canisters, and all this going together. Moving on, this is the rear hull. Yeah, so those are those red parts that we mentioned. These maybe they're not exhaust, maybe they're like mine launchers or something of that nature going on. More photos of the real thing up in black and white, but you should be able to help you figure out where stuff goes if you're not sure. Top hull going onto the bottom. From what we saw in the kit earlier, the fit appears to be quite good. I am missing a chunk out of the front of mine, probably because it's been rattling around the box a little bit, but that shouldn't be difficult to fix. Here's all those little railings going on. I'd probably leave those off until later on in the painting process if you don't want to be breaking them. That Bofors gun going on. Here's a little bit of information on the anchor, detail parts, and various other hatches and little items going on the hull. Adding more detail parts, this is actually showing you the construction of a battery holder on how to actually get this thing powered. That's what that rod is for. Here's some more information about that motor. I'd be very interested to see if this actually works, but yeah. So this is showing fitting the battery packs, I believe, into the bottom of the hull. This is putting the superstructure on. I believe it's meant to be left loose so you can access the batteries and all the electronics inside. I haven't decided if I'm going to try to make this RC or if I'm just going to build it as a static model, but I think it's possible to build it as a static model with all the necessary components loose, like the superstructure and the props, just so that later on, if I decide to convert it to an RC model, it probably wouldn't be too hard. I'd probably use a slightly newer motor, probably put some extra, like, some newer electronics into it, let's say. This is some more information about how to paint the crew figures, detailing on the torpedo, detailing on the machine gun, or on the Bofors gun, some information about the masts, specific details to be added, what kind of flags it would be flying, some templates on flags if you wish to cut those out and use those, and 2 photos of the finished model just so you have an idea of where you should be getting to. And in usual Tamiya fashion, the last page is a parts call out. And this is kind of interesting. This is actually a parts list, and they actually tell you exactly what each part is, which for me, because I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to boats, is very helpful. So something, a bollard, radar, locker of some kind, jack staff, that's interesting. But yeah, so very helpful. I expect to learn a lot about what different boat parts are from building this kit. So great shout out to Tamiya from that. And at the end, some more Tamiya history on other car kits in a boat model. But yeah, so that's the Vosper. We're going to come back and we'll take a look at that PT-15. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the PT-15 torpedo boat. This actually is the newer boxing of it. It used to come in a box that looked exactly like that one, the white box with the logo on the side and the old Tamiya style logo and all that. But this is the one that they reboxed and came out in 2005. Again, not very easy to come by. Keep your eyes on eBay if you're looking for it. I happen to get a good deal on this and that together. So yeah, let's open up the box and see what we get inside. So upon opening the box, hopefully that will stay there. Cool, so less parts, I believe, than the other one. I don't know if this ever came as a motorized kit, but straight off the bat, I can tell you there's no motors and such in this, I believe. But yeah, we can kind of go through the parts here. This is the instruction manual. Again, different from what Tamiya does now. I don't know if they did any other boat kits, but maybe the boat kits all look like this. But we'll come back to this. These are the parts in here. So we'll start off with the biggest one, the hull. You can see straight off the bat, this is a very big piece. Again, I believe it was meant to be motorized at some point, given the, I guess, the mounting points for various motors and battery holders and the holes drilled for the props, or the shafts. Yeah. But yeah, very clean mold, single piece. So if you did want to make this RC, you wouldn't really have to do much in the way of waterproofing a seam or any of that. There's one seam that runs, or one mold seam that runs all the way from the front to this point here. Couple of mold removal marks, but some sanding and polishing should get you in the right place for that. On the rear of the hull, some molded detail for, I believe, steps or some kind of exhaust or all that, some details that go on there. So we'll see in the instructions later. All right, so we have this little bag in here. These are metal prop shafts. So yeah, I guess this was meant to be motorized at some point. A bag of chain for the anchor, I suppose, and some yellow thread. So those are for the railings, no doubt. All right, so moving along, this is various bracing, some hatches and details and such like that. This is the back. I believe this is the front side of it, but you can see very nicely molded, sharp detail. There's, I believe, some kind of steps in there, hatches, props, not in chrome this time, which should help in painting. Yeah, various little detail parts, ladders, what else? Some, I believe that's part of the mast. Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it's got some nice molding to it. Okay, so there's that sprue. This sprue is the torpedo tubes and torpedoes. I don't know if you get actual torpedoes, but I believe there's an option to either have the tube look as if it's empty or put the head on the torpedo tube and make it look like it's got a torpedo in it. Yeah, but we'll see in the instructions. Molded hatches, very sharp detail on those. The torpedoes / torpedo tubes are molded in halves, so some seams to deal with there. These, I believe, are some kind of ammo canisters. I don't know what they exactly are, but there's a bunch of them scattered around behind this massive cannon here, like kind of in front of the wheelhouse. So what leads me to believe they're ammo canisters for that big gun, but we will see in the instructions later. Either way, though, they have very nice molded detail on top. If I do recall, Edward makes a photo etch set for this. which includes some additional details to add to those canisters to make them look more, I guess, realistic. Next bag. This is a bunch of small details to be added to the hull. You can see some life preservers. These, I believe, are internal parts for the wheelhouse. Looks like a control box of some sort. This is a portion of that big cannon. You can see some molded ammo in there. Overall, yeah, very nice molding, as expected from Tamiya. I don't know what all this other stuff is in the back. And we move on to the other big parts. So this is the rear deck section. You can see the mounting points for those torpedoes. Very clean molding. Slight raised ribbed texture for, I guess, the deck planking or the deck paneling. This is more details that will soon be hidden underneath various boxes and such, I believe. Rear, I guess the mount for the rear machine gun. And yeah, the back actually here is the, this is the front deck with the molded well for the big cannon up front. But very clean molding, holes pre-drilled for various railings and other deck details to be added soon. Let's see. This is the mid section that kind of goes in this area, I believe. And you can see this is the mounting spot for that big cannon. I believe the rest of the wheelhouse mounts up here. And yeah, overall, not much else to say about this. The stand, well molded. Comes with kind of this cool little PT-15 logo. The glass and clear parts, they're all flat and in typical Tamiya fashion are perfectly clear. It has yet to be seen if there's any distortion from those when we actually glue them in. But again, that's all of those windows that go there. And the most interesting part, at least to me, is this. This is the wheelhouse, as I now know it's called. It is also molded in one piece. No doubt a very complicated slide mold. It is covered in raised details of various sort. Some kind of lights or fairings, hatches, various raised rivets. You can see those around the window framing. There's another piece in here which leads me to believe that might be the rear superstructure that goes back here. Of some sort, but we'll see in the instructions in a minute. I didn't see any decals in here. Oh, wait, no, they're right in here. Actually, those are paper flags. So, paper flags for that. I didn't see any decals in here, so I don't know if we need decals or they came with them and I'm missing them or they're somewhere else. But we will come back with the instructions and go from there. All right, so let's go through the instruction manual on the PT-15 boat. Again, picture the finished model on the cover and some photos of the exterior and interior of the real thing to help you with any details you might be unsure of. Unfortunately, black and white, but this initially came out in 1971, so kind of expected. But I'm sure Google and such will help you. Also, at least these will help you if you want to scratch build anything. Colors and such you might have to extrapolate from your own experience or kind of make them up as you go, but at least this will help you get in the ballpark. So opening it up, typical blurb on the actual boat itself, its history, a couple photos of it in action. There's Japanese over here and English on this side. I'll kind of gloss over that and we'll get into the actual build itself. Some building tips, tips on masking, tips on cutting parts, tips on tools needed, and then straight into the build. So starting off with the stand, actually, we saw that in the kit. Very simple stand, 4 pieces, glue it together, paint it however you like. I've seen people cut out this logo and do like a waterline model of this and kind of stick it in the water. You can kind of do whatever you want with it. So we have the starting off with the props immediately. We have those metal shafts, which leads me to believe that this at some point came with motors and such, and it was meant to be motorized. Probably wouldn't be too hard to set this up with a new control system, new motors, new RC system to get it to go like that again, which may be the route that we go on this, but I'm not sure yet. Then more details to the hull. I'm assuming these are some kind of exhaust for the engines. There's some hatch covers for that. There's like a little step tray thing. It goes back here. adding details to the front part of the deck, some masts, some other additional details to be glued down, all into pre-drilled holes, so that's convenient. Otherwise, you'd be drilling forever. There's the, is that called a breakwater thing? Yeah, so that goes there. These are ammo canisters. There's a bunch of them. They go all around that massive cannon on the front deck. Adding the hull to the deck, add deck to the hull, rather. Some trays, some rails, more additional little deck details going on the rear section. More details, all pre-drilled holes as we saw earlier. So very convenient, clean up the parts. I assume most of this gets painted in that weird gray color, so kind of up to you on whether or not you want to add all these and then paint, or paint them separately and then add them. Kind of up to you on that. Here, we start building the torpedoes. So I was actually wrong, I believe. Nope, they are tubes. So they're tubes, and I don't think you have the option to build them empty. I think the only option is to have the tubes loaded almost, I think. I could be wrong, but at least that's kind of what I'm seeing here. So yeah, you build 4 of those. They go on kind of like the mid deck a little bit. They angle off to the side. This is the rear bridge. Some photos of the real thing to kind of for you to compare to. Adding all these details, all pre-drilled holes again, various panels, hatches, little boxes, railings, ladder. Cool. And then moving straight along to that, we have the adding the rear superstructure, rear control house or rear bridge to the rear deck section. This is that big cannon up front. Is this also a Vosper? I don't know. It looks like it, kind of. So 2 photos showing the completed part, or the completed subassembly, so you kind of know what all this mess goes into. A photo of the real thing. A lot of little details on this. From photos I've seen of it, it actually builds up quite nice. Maybe a nice metal barrel if you can find one in 72nd scale. I don't know if anybody does one. But yeah. So here is adding a bunch of railings, and also various like thread. I believe some of these use thread, some of them use part of that chain. So that was not an anchor chain, that was railing chain. My mistake there. Adding the torpedo tubes, more railings, more adding the rear machine gun. Here's dealing with the crew, detailed paint up on what he looks like. I believe he's overall blue. It's a very interesting little scheme. Overall blue with a gray life jacket and a light blue helmet. So that'll be fun to paint up. It should be a nice little contrast standing on deck to this whole gray thing going on. Some photos of the interior built up to see what they look like. Here's the layout of where everything goes. Very cleanly done. Here's showing how the life preservers paint up, how they attach. And then this is attaching more bridge parts. Here's 2 pictures of the finished product to see where stuff goes. A lot of little pieces going on from what we saw earlier. Again, pre-drilled holes. All these molded attachment points are all very clearly laid out for you to go and glue from there. Here's another photo of the real thing showing the front, showing a little bit of the bridge windows and such, and how you can detail that up. This is showing the main mast, I believe, where that goes, showing where different parts attach. There's also attaching it to the main wheelhouse and attaching the wheelhouse to the hull. It doesn't say to leave this loose, I believe, which leads me to believe that in this model you're meant to glue it on, but it could be left loose if you plan to do RC and you just find a way to maybe playing with some fun magnets and such to put it together and that you can access the inside of the hull. And yeah, that concludes the build. So this is the paint scheme, one scheme. It's gray of some form, gray, neutral gray over hull green. So very interesting kind of scheme. Normally below the waterline on a lot of American vessels, it tends to be that whole red color, that rusty red color. But on this is green. So I think it'll be kind of cool to have this sitting next to that with the red hull and the green deck. This with the gray with the green hull, and then like a PT-109 or PT boat of some sort with like the normal colors almost, or a camouflage pattern on it. Here again, in typical Tamiya fashion, a parts layout, color callouts, color recommendations. We went over these parts before. More parts on here. What I'm not seeing on this actually is what's it called? A parts kind of an call out list where they kind of go over what each part is, like the Vosper did. So I guess I won't be learning about boats from this kit, but I can learn from that and use them on this. So, but yeah, so that's the instructions here. Again, another very cool looking kit from Tamiya. You don't see this very often. I think more companies need to come out with these kind of oddball kits a little bit. And I guess this would be a good standard for you to start from if you can find it. Full disclosure, I paid about 20 bucks for that, 30 for this, in kind of a package deal. On eBay, those tend to go for $50, $60. This tend to go more. But if you keep your eye out on eBay, as I said, you should be able to find them. Thanks for watching.